What is going on in Millersville? From child predator stings to conspiracy theories. We gotta talk about this. All right, little house cleaning up front. If you haven't already, please click subscribe. Click on the little bell to get notified. If you could give this video a thumbs up, it would mean a lot to me. Let's get into it. So if you're not familiar with Millersville, and most people aren't, it is just north of Nashville, about 20 minutes outside of Nashville, north, kind of near Rivergate, but before the state line. Sandwiched in between Goodlettsville, Hendersonville, and White House, Ridgetop. It's a metropolis. And let me just say, when I was still living there, that's where I grew up, born and raised. I don't want to brag. Went to Millersville Elementary School, and then White House Junior High and White House High School. So that area is sentimental to me a little bit. But craziness is going on. When my friend's like, have you heard what happened in Millersville? I'm like, something happened in Millersville? No. Whoa, Nilly. This is going to be a lot. I'm going to read a lot of this because it's so much. Possible perjury. It's nuts. So we're gonna go flipping back and forth in time a little bit. I'm gonna try to get you as on the page as possible. So District Attorney General Robert Nash has asked the TBI to look into the Millersville Police Department on its handling of a child predator sting. Yes, you heard me right. Including possible perjury by the lead detective. So, what had happened was, the Millersville Police Department had partnered with an Arizona-based nonprofit called Veterans for Child Rescue. Sounds good so far, right? They provide chatters, which are people that pose as online 12-year-olds to kind of lure in sexual predators and, do the sting on them, arrest, get these guys off the street. That sounds great. I'm totally behind that. I think child predators should be just, but that's just me. So, all that's well and good sounding, right? But under Tennessee state law, it is illegal for a person to solicit sex with a minor or a law enforcement officer posing as a minor. So that's the law, but it gets weird, and I lose track of what's going on. So Millersville sting only resulted in the arrest of one person. And get this, the guy was like pedaling on a bicycle up the interstate to meet with what he's thinking is a 12-year-old. So, yuck. But when the case went before the judge for a preliminary hearing, Millersville Detective Todd Doris testified that he and another officer did all the work. He claimed that the nonprofit was only there to provide advice. So it's gray sounding to me. So is it okay for the police to pose as a 12-year-old, or is it not okay? This is where I'm a little confused. But Kim Kelly, which is a former member of Veterans for Child Rescue Team, had secret recordings showing that she and other colleagues were the ones posing as minors. So again, I'm like, are they supposed to? Are they not supposed to? It sounds like they were not supposed to. So the nonprofit was brought to Millersville by the department's conspiracy-minded assistant police chief, Shawn Taylor. Now this guy is nuts. Let's just say what it is. He's freaking crazy. All right. So he's not the chief of police. He's the assistant police chief. Okay. One, he believes that Al-Anon conspiracy theories that falsely claim Democrats had kept a child sex slaves locked in the basement of a pizza in D.C. He believes that, even though there's no proof. He believes that former Vice President Al Gore was involved in the disappearance and murder of 20-year-old Holly Bobo back in 2011. He believes this. Again, All his theories are based on zero evidence. Let's just put that out there. And he even like goes off on people. So he in a video, he goes on thinking that there's a link between Bill Gates, all kinds of things going on between Bill Gates, and he's just because he can't find anything, also makes it seem more suspicious. He calls himself a gypsy cop, a cop gypsy, which I don't think he knows what that means. Anyway, he goes, every time I go to an agency and start digging, they will always, as soon as I start showing them everything, they will shut me down. I haven't heard him a lot, but in my mind that sounds pretty spot on how Shawn Taylor should sound. I've got some clips of him to give you an idea of how nuts he is. He claims he's uncovered a vast criminal conspiracy that involves former President George Bush, Bill Clinton, Al Gore, billionaires like George Soros and Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. He's bipartisan in his crazy, because he even says that U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn, who I do not care for, is guilty of stuff. I mean, Ray Blanton, our former governors, Ned McWhirter, even Bill Haslam, even the current governor, Bill Lee. So everybody has got something going on in his brain, even though he has no proof. He says, old man Bush is the king. He's the ringleader. He's the one that got all the stuff happening. He thinks that Tennessee's TennCare, which is a health insurance plan, is part of the plot, that it's the Gore's way of laundering money. I mean, and people believe him. He goes on podcasts. So an interviewer asks, so you said in one podcast that if you don't see anything suspicious, you find that suspicious. Do you find that to be crazy talk? He's like, no, I don't, Mr. Bleep. So he's cocky. For no reason, obviously, but so Marsha Blackburn, who I don't care for anyway, but he thinks she's involved in a bunch of various plots. He says, Marsha, I hope you're listening, because I know all of your illegal campaign contributions ran through Fifth Third Bank, and we're looking into that too, just so you knows. He says this on a podcast, and oh my gosh, he's like, we're coming after you too, Marsha. I mean, he is quick to think that everything is corruption everywhere he goes, and he's the only one that's on to it, right? So in 2018, there was a video of him taking down some gang members. And I don't know if this was, I don't think he got to Millersville yet. He goes, I had another city that was within a quarter mile that refused to back me up because, I'll just call it, the Greenbrier police chief is corrupt as shit. This is, what? I mean, I kind of feel bad for Greenbrier police. Again, I don't trust a lot of small police departments as far as I can throw them, as I've mentioned with the Sebastian Rogers case. But, again, with a grain of salt. Without evidence. Oh, he doesn't stop there. He goes on to accuse the Cookeville, Tennessee DA Bryant Dunaway of covering up murders in his district, claiming that the DA is lying when he says that certain murders are unsolved. Bullshit. Let me tell you something, District Attorney Bryant Dunaway of Cookeville. You're a lying piece of shit. So he loves to call people lying pieces of shit. It's crazy, right? He imagines that his own DA, Ray Whitley of Gallatin, has done favors for drug dealers who he thinks help him keep him in office. So he's saying that this DA has gang people that are helping keep him in office. So Whitley claims several years ago basically framed two gentlemen, this is what he's saying, rated, several years ago, basically framed two gentlemen for a homicide when he knew they didn't do it. But they owned the drug dealer's money that he gets money from to be elected. He sounds like this. I'm not misreading it. It's what he says. If I was still in law enforcement, and I wasn't retired, I would keep seeking search warrants. This is what he says on a podcast called the Alpha Warriors. Something tells me these guys are neither alpha nor warriors. I would keep seeking arrest warrants and or indictments, and we would be kicking people's asses. And now this is before he was on this podcast, before he started at Millersville. Okay, he imagines that Millersville, keep in mind, a population of 6,000, which doubled from when I was there. When I was there and I had become an adult, I think it was 3,000, and we had 3 cops, a chief and 2 officers. It was like the Dukes of Hazzard, except without fun. Oh my God. So he thinks Millersville, like I said, just a little tiny town just north of Nashville, is the center of Tennessee's drug and human trafficking operations. I'll tell you, the people there aren't smart enough to do that. But anyway, so an attorney for Millersville, attorney for this conspiracy cop, Shawn Taylor, has told Millersville's city commission, whom he also represents. So this cop, this lawyer represents the cop, also represents the city, that they shouldn't question the assistant police chief's bizarre theories or psychological fitness, because his client, Shawn Taylor, could sue his other client, the city. That doesn't sound right. Why? Isn't that a conflict of interest if you're representing two very similar and possibly opposing? Well, what do I know? I'm not a lawyer. So, in the podcast, Taylor shared conspiracy theories that the Covenant school shooting, which was in Nashville, he says that was staged, that shooting was staged. He's insane. So, City Commissioner David Gregory urges fellow commissioners to demand that Shawn Taylor apologize for the 2023 podcast, which he questioned the official story. He actually believes that the shooting was staged. And I'm sure a lot of other people do. Now, this lawyer that's, I say, has the conflict of interest, his name is Bryant Kroll. He wears a lot of hats. He's got a lot going on. One, he's the attorney representing the city of Millersville, the embattled, as some may say. He represents the mayor, Tommy Long, who faces accusations of misconduct in another suit. Then he's representing the personal attorney for this police chief the police chief, Brian Morris, who is, I think, still the current one, and Shawn Taylor, in a lawsuit that they have against the city of Ridgetop. I'm like, how can one lawyer, and those are all very conflicting. I mean, how can he keep his law license if he has one? Before Kroll became city attorney, he represented former Millersville police officers who filed a 28-page lawsuit accusing city leaders of racism and bullying, which, again, I think we can all agree, racism and bullying is awful. But it seems like there's a little more to the story that I can't really find. So Morris brought Taylor with him to Millersville earlier in this year after they were both fired from Ridgetop. I'm sorry, but, Ridgetop also not a big town. I'm like, if Ridgetop has a problem with you, I mean, come on. There's got to be a problem with you, my friend. So, as for the bizarre conspiracy theories, okay, Mayor Tommy Long said he's not concerned about Taylor's podcast. Well, he wasn't an employee at the time. And then they said, and when asked, should this kind of person be in power. He says, I think Shawn Taylor is a very good police officer. So keep in mind, these two men seem corrupt as fuck. And they have the power to arrest you if you get into Millersville. Millersville has always been known for their, what should we call them, speed traps. Again, just like the Dukes of Hazzard. So it's just like Roscoe's setting up, at the bottom of the ridge. And if you've ever come down that ridge, it's hard to slow down. It is a steep ridge. And they're waiting right there at the bottom. Because you haven't, there's like that slowed down speed right there. And it would be so easy because you haven't had time because you were just coming off the ridge. Anyway, so now, currently, it seems like Shawn's got a new lawyer called Todd Callender. And this lawyer says he's been retained by Shawn Taylor. I represent Shawn Taylor in relation to federal whistleblower, yes, you heard me right, whistleblower protection as the assistant chief of police in your city. So now, he's not only a cop gypsy cop, whatever he calls himself, now he fancies himself a whistleblower. Whistleblowers usually have facts. But anyway, so Todd Callender, he's a Colorado-based attorney. He's known for his crazy views on COVID-19 and the vaccine. He's one of those people. And if you're one of those people, I'm rolling my eyes at you too. In one video he posted, Callender claims that the shot effectively gave the world vaccine-induced AIDS. I shit you not. What? It effectively gave the world vaccine-induced AIDS. Just when I think these characters can't get a lot crazier. Listen to this secret taping.
And the other thing is be very careful with any law enforcement here in the state of Tennessee, which I know you already know that, but we do have law enforcement that is involved in this on the money side of it that I ran Craig through. And so he's seen it, and we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. So, so be real careful, especially when it comes to our state agencies, such as the TBI or the Tennessee Highway Patrol and Homeland Security for the state.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So we just got to be real careful with them because we have people that we've already identified that are involved in the money laundering side.
Okay, you heard all that, right? So among what was revealed, Taylor didn't involve other law enforcement agencies with more experience in those kind of operations because his unfounded conspiracy theories, he thought prominent state officials were involved in the sex trafficking ring, which could be. I mean, we see a lot of people in power that do questionable things, but again, you usually have proof. Then he goes on to say, members of the private group that posed online as minors, despite Millersville police being told by prosecutors that the sting would be legal only if a sworn law enforcement officer was the one doing the work. Then Shawn Taylor told one of the operatives in the investigation that he was going to be using pre-signed search warrants, which is illegal. It's illegal. Pre-signed search warrants aren't a thing. What? Okay, and again, like I said, the police arrested this one suspect, and he refused to talk to investigators, and they turned him over to the private group for questioning. So the guy's not going to talk to the police, so the police are going to let him talk to this. That's like Chris Hansen talking to them after the police. Yeah, these people are crazy. So Millersville detective boasted that the suspect was being taken to jail where it would be likely he would not come out alive. Yes, you heard all that. Wow. Okay. Here is a team photo of Operation Clean Sweep, as Taylor dubbed it. It's 5 police officers from Millersville, which none have any experience in these child sex stings. No experience at all. 2 of the people in the picture were introduced as prayer warriors who are part of a group that believes that the battle against human trafficking is a battle against demons. Demons, okay? Now here is a clip of him talking about the search warrants.
Basically, what we're going to be doing is, of course, we're going to have search warrants that are already, they'll have to meet certain parameters for us to execute the search warrant, but they're going to be pre-signed search warrants. And we plan on having somebody there with our IT people to be able to identify a person's IP address or something like that to identify who the offender is and be able to try to go after that. And the other thing is anybody that we do take in custody and arrest, we also want to dump their phones and execute search warrant on their home to be able to get their electronic devices and dump those, because we want to be able to, because an offender like this has committed the offense numerous times. Right. This isn't their first time. So we want to identify anybody that they're getting child pornography from or anybody that they've met up and gotten a child from in the past, so that we can identify the actual people that are moving the kids. And then, follow that wherever it needs to go with other law enforcement agencies and get them involved and be able to go after all of that. We've got to be able to go after that and identify the source. And so we want to get in and just, disrupt and dismantle that source.
Shawn Taylor talks about being prepared for the operation with pre-signed search warrants, which are not legal. Aren't legal. You can't have a pre-signed search warrant. One, you got to see what's going on. You've got to get the information to the judge. The judge has to sign it. You've got to swear before the judge what you're saying. You got to have probable cause. None of this is making sense. A pre-signed search warrants is a criminal offense in and of itself. How these people, they have the power to arrest you. They have the power to do whatever they want according to them. Okay, now the recording also shows the plan was to try to lure predators to this shell station in Robertson County, because the officers felt that the prosecutor for that district was more likely to work with them on their cases. So where Millersville is, it right is on the line of Sumner County and Robertson County. So I guess he didn't think Sumner County would have his back, but Robertson County might. So they lured them, it sounds like most likely out of their jurisdiction, to a shell station right on, and I know the one they're talking about, and oh wow, it's right off the interstate too. So Millersville detective Mike Candler referred to fellow detective Todd Norris as Mater, because we're in Millersville. Mater there is best friends with the district attorney in Robertson County, is what Candler said. They went to high school together, so he said, well, let's put this here so I can talk to him. And we lock everything in so he won't stand for nothing, and they all hate pedophiles. I think we can agree most people hate pedophiles, but, you're kind of, Millersville. I'm saying, if you can avoid going through Millersville, do it. Notice I have not moved back to that area. Okay, and then, like I said, when they did get the one suspect, the one arrest that they made out of this sting, so the guy was bicycling up 65, right? I think he's going to have sex with a 12-year-old, and then, boom, they got him in custody. Which, that guy needs his nuts cut off, in my opinion. Pedophiles cannot be rehabilitated. That's scientific proof. It's a fact. So if we can't, we need to snip. Okay, and that's just the most recent sign of corruption in Millersville. Back in February, this year's been and I even heard that they've dismantled the fire department, or the fire department's quit, or something. That was recent. I couldn't find an article about it, but I remember hearing people talk about it. So, back in February, they get a new city manager for Millersville, who uncovered instances of fraud, waste, and abuse. According to a news release, the new city manager, Tina Tobin, passed along instances of alleged fraud. We have to call it alleged to the state comptroller's office. The accusations of fraud were under the prior leadership of city manager Scott Avery, former, who was fired in January along with police chief Robert Richmond, who'd only been on the job for a month. I mean, it is like musical chairs up in Millersville. So Tobin found out there was like a lot of deleted texts, and she did a forensic audit and found a bunch of stuff. Well, she was like, this is a bunch of crap. So she quit in April, all right? So she'd been the center of accusations of ethic violations and backdoor dealings since her appointment in January. So it's like, dang, when you think one person's good, they're kind of crap too. So I don't know what to believe. So at present, citizens of Millersville vote on city commissioners. And then those commissioners elect one of their own to serve as mayor. So, as we are currently speaking, you don't vote for a mayor in Millersville, it's sounding like. You vote for city commissioners, and those commissioners pick one of their own as mayor. That seems shady. So speaking of mayors, former Millersville mayor Tim Lassiter was arrested in April for document fraud. I know his family. I was best friends with his sister when we were in middle school and high school. Okay, officials at the Sumner County Jail said Lassiter was arrested on charges of criminal simulation and destruction of tampering with government documents. And again, it's like they try to do good, but then they go like a very fucked up, stupid way of doing it. So Lassiter, Tim issued a building permit for the Millersville Fire Department for renovations, but without following the requirements to do so, without the approval of the Tennessee State Fire Marshal's office. So he thought, everything's okay. Yeah, we need this. Yeah, everything's fine. So the court document stated that he passed the permit, claiming that it met the standards and requirements for the state of Tennessee. However, officials said that Tim, who was also the contractor of the project, knew that the permit shouldn't have been issued. Tim. Again, all this conflict of interest is blowing my mind. You're the mayor, but you also are the contractor. It's crazy. So he stepped down in April of 2022 as mayor. So just a musical chair. My mind is just reeling with who's there and who needs to be there. I don't know. So January 30th, a new commissioner, Alyssa Huling, was sworn in. Then within 15 minutes, the newest commissioner was the deciding vote 3-2 to fire the acting city manager, which was Scott Avery. Also fired the following commission meeting was the city attorney Jack Friedel and acting police chief Rob Richmond. So like fire without a fire department. And Rob Richmond, bless his heart, he had just moved here from Texas to take this job in Millersville, which I don't know what that says about you. You really didn't look into Millersville, I gotta tell you that. So on February 13th, Fire Chief Brandon Head, also terminated, not killed, but fired. In May, Holly Murphy, which was the city's recorder, sent the commissioners, the interim city manager and the city attorney, a 1,700-word email detailing payroll errors. So some employees were getting paid incorrectly or not even getting paid at all, right? And several of the payments were made for the incorrect amount. She ends up resigning. I mean, it just seems like Millersville is a big old hot mess, but it always has been, so it's really not surprising me a lot. So a group of Millersville residents are trying to remove Tommy Logan from mayor, saying that he's abusing his power, which it sounds like he is, corruption, and dereliction of duty. It's been just a crazy 2024 in Millersville, all right? And just when you think it can't get crazier, the city is losing their insurance. So the group providing liability insurance for Millersville says that they're not going to renew coverage because of the city's pattern of actions. What? Okay, they can't have insurance. They're losing their fire department possibly. So Public Entity Partners, which is the insurance, said that they're going to end their liability coverage for Millersville on July 1st. So it's this past July, which comes after a letter that they sent on March 4th to Mayor Tommy Long, warning that the city's coverage was in jeopardy. Millersville commissioners said that they'd not seen the letter and had no idea that the city was in danger of losing its liability insurance. Clusterfuck left and right, is it not? So the letter explains a review of claims activity and reported insights on the above referenced insurance policy reveals a pattern of actions that are outside of the standards each member must adhere to for public entity partners and our members to accept liability for those actions. Oh my God, it just gets juicier and juicier, does it not? Liability insurance, it basically covers the cost of lawsuits that might happen or loss of actions caused by city employees. And without this insurance coverage, the city could be forced to pay for these losses on their own. So that's going to be a real budget nightmare. So the insurance goes on to say, we continue to have concerns over your employee practices liability, law enforcement liability, and errors and omissions liability. If Public Entity Partners continues to provide liability coverage for Millersville, we will at a minimum increase the per occurrences deductibles and the areas of concern. So even if they go, they're going to raise their rates. Oh my gosh. So that's a lot. Okay, so it goes on to say, they explained that they had no choice but to cease Millersville's liability coverage effective July 1st of this year. We will continue to provide Millersville with workers' compensation and property coverage. Woo! That's a lot. Millersville's got a lot going on and none of it's good. None of it. And then we don't even know about the sex ring because all this other stuff is going on. All right, so to review, Tim Lassiter, former mayor of Millersville, stepped down after a lawsuit was filed against the city on 2021 by two former police officers who claimed they were intimidated out of their job. Dustin Carr, which we didn't even cover, or there's some of these we didn't even cover, this just give you an idea. Former police chief of Millersville resigned in late 2022 after a lawsuit continued to move in the courts. The lawsuit was moving through the courts when he resigned. Glenn Allred, former Millersville assistant police who resigned in 2023. He was under scrutiny by Tennessee Post Commission. They launched an investigation into claims that he was working full-time without being a certified cop. Well, it looks like anybody could be a cop in Millersville. Anyway. Melvin Brown, former police, resigned after the Tennessee Post Commission said the department was running illegally. I'm not shocked. Scott Avery, talked about him, former city manager, fired late 2023, having only been there about a year. Not a lot of explanation. We don't really exactly know. Anyway, Jack Friedel, the former city attorney, was fired less than 24 hours after Avery in 2023. Tim Tobin, she was that interim city manager who came after Scott Avery. She went on to fire Rob Richmond, former police chief who was hired in late 2023 but shortly fired. Oh my gosh, so he was the fourth chief of Millersville since 2021. The fourth police chief since 2021. Brandon Head, longtime fire chief, was fired by the interim city manager, Tobin, I believe it was. He'd been there since 2006. After his firing, 17 firefighters walked off the job. I mean, Millersville, dude, what? Lots going on, and none of it seems good. But wow, Millersville. Well, if you found this interesting at all, enlightening, I know I am not going to be going to Millersville anytime soon. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. It would mean the world to me. Click the subscribe if you haven't already. The little bell if you want to get notified. And thank you so much for watching.